All right. Hello, everyone. My name is Daniel, and I want to share today with you a few scenarios where I think that Fantasy Grounds does a better job than Foundry VGT, specifically for Pathfinder Second Edition rule set. I love Foundry and I love to use it for like one shots, low level adventures, but I feel like in terms of automation, Fantasy Grounds does still a better job, and I want to share some scenarios where I feel like I can showcase that. So feel free to leave your comments if you disagree with me. I know that Foundry will eventually catch up. That's very likely to happen. But for now, those are the things that I love about Fantasy Ground. So um, let's go through them. The first scenario is where you just want to cast a spell and then like quickly do a bunch of saving throws and applying effects, right? So imagine here that we have the situation where Carol the Druid should just run inside this room, which is full of assassins, right? So to make sure that things get easier, I just want to cast fear in all of the assassins pretty quickly, right? So the way it works is that with a single click, I can just target all of the opponents in the scene. Then I just come here to my character sheet, and then I'll cast fear, right? So with one button, this will actually make sure that all of them are ready to roll their effects, right? If I'm a player, actually, the way it happens is that all the dice are rolled automatically, and I can see that three of them failed and one of them had a critical success, right? If that's the case, I can just press one button and three of them will apply. I'll just try to re-roll that to see if I have like a more interesting scenario, right? So in this scenario, for example, I have one success and three critical failures. That looks great for Kiral. So with another one single press, now I have all the effects apply automatically to all the creatures, right? So all the ones that have critical failures, they all have the Frighten 3 effect and the Fleeing effect. But the specific one that only got a success, that got a success on their roll, it's only Frighten 1, right? So with two button presses, I can apply all the effects all at once. It takes like literally less than 10 seconds, right? I don't have to drag effects around. I don't have to do anything. That's super quick. And of course, all the Frighten are fully automated to decrease their skills DC, so on and so forth. Let's go through our second scenario. Right. The second scenario is where I love the way Fantasy Grounds work with vulnerability, weaknesses, resistances, and immunities. Right. For this example, I'm gonna have Mickey, the monk red folk here, and he's fighting two very unique creatures. Right. The first one is a two-headed troll. The other one is the Sandpoint Devil. And the reason I choose those creatures is because the troll, not only it has weakness to fire 10, but it also has its regeneration deactivated by acid or fire damage. And the Sandpoint Devil, he is immune to fire, but is weakened to, is vulnerable to Code Iron 5, right? And our friend Mickey here, he has runes on his hand wraps, right? So his basic damage is bludgeoning, but he also deals additionally 1d6 fire and 1d6 code. And also because he's high level as a monk, we can also see here that he has two effects of damage type that adds the damage type of Code Iron and Silver to his strikes. Right, so let's just try to hit the two-headed troll and see what happens with his powerful fists. So the way the damage works is that the first effect is that we do see that the regen effects disable. So the next turn, this troll won't automatically regenerate 25 hit points like it usually does. And the second effect is that 20 points of damage it turns into 30 because of the weakness to fire. Pretty straightforward. I don't have to calculate anything. All the math is done automatically by Fantasy Ground. So one click here on the damage, everything happens, right? The DM doesn't have to do anything. It's very quick. Now let's try to do the same thing with the Sandpoint Devil. This is a little bit more interesting, because now I can see that the damage goes through, right? But you can see that the vulnerability, the weaknesses to the Code Iron gets full. So you can see that we add 5 here, but the fire damage doesn't go through. So the 15 turns into, so it's 16 minus 1, because that's how much we roll on the fire damage, is this 6 here, right? So it's 15, and then it adds additional damage for each one of the Code Iron sources of damage. If we remove the Code Iron from the damage type, right? Like, so if we remove this, if we turn off this effect here, what's going to happen, and let me throw, I can even drag this damage again and apply. Yeah, that doesn't work. Let me try to roll damage again. So now there's no vulnerability, right? Now that's just the regular damage, and it's not getting it, and it's resisting the fire damage, right? So everything happens behind the scenes. You don't have to worry about this, you know. So the immunity of fire, it's applying automatically, and the same thing is happening to Code Iron when that damage type is available. Okay, so let's go through my last thing that I feel like it does very well. So I know that Foundry now does this very easily too, but of course all the effects apply automatically, right? So in this situation, Mickey is enfeebled and stupefied, right? So if he tries to attack with its powerful fist, let's roll the second attack here, we'll see that there is an effect -1 due to the fact that he is enfeebled, right? So we know that this is happening here, and that's why. And we see all the effects here too, right? Another thing that it's kind of cool is that every time he needs to roll a saving throw, for example, let's see if the Sandpoint Devil tries to do a Phantasmal Killer effect on him, right? So as a GM, I'll just drag this thing, drop on Mickey. This will trigger a saving throw from Mickey. Now Mickey needs to do a will save, right? So let's come here to our saves. Let's do a will save. And that's a 10, right? And usually the DC of this save, it would be 23. So it will require a 33 for a critical success. But because as a monk, he has this ability, right? As some of your saving throws successes turns into critical success. So he has this effect automatically applied as a character effect because of a monk of that level. That's why the system automatically shows me here that it already increased the success to critical success, so there's nothing to apply in the case of Phantasmal Killer, right? So a lot of those calculations, so you don't have to spend time doing math, and you can spend more time playing the game and having fun. Finally, something that I really like, it's about concealment, right? Like there's a lot of effects that creates concealment, and Fantasy Grounds have a great way of doing this, which is I can just apply concealment on my attack. So if my target is concealed, I just do a quick tag. To have those buttons here is a little bit of it's an extension, but otherwise I'll just have to use this window here, right? So it's the same button. I just turn concealed here, and if I try to attack with my powerful fist, it would have, well, if I roll a 1, it doesn't even have to check for concealment. But if I hold a little bit better, it actually have to check for, oh, I turned off it only requires this for a roll, so it tugged off. So let me try again. There you go. It automatically do my flat check, right? So in this case, the flat check succeeded with a 6. I need 5 or more. So that's why it tells me that it is a hit. So if I had rolled like a 3 on the flat check, even if I hit with the attack, it will show the result as a miss. So that's pretty neat as well, and save some time. So those are just small things that I feel like it makes a little bit easier to use Fantasy Grounds. And I know that they'll be coming to Foundry soon. But for now, I really like the fact that I can do those automations, especially at higher levels, right? I feel like for low-level adventures, the barrier of entry of Foundry is still really hard to beat. So I hope this is interesting for you, and thanks for watching.